everybody, it's Matt Martin here from the Photobook Cafe, and thank you for joining us for another episode of Behind the Photobook. Today we are talking to Alyssa Warren. We're talking about her project The Lake, which was exhibited here back in November. We had a book launch and exhibition of the work. It's a really interesting project. It's actually Alyssa's first book that she's ever done. It's a beautifully crafted artist book. It has so many layers. It's very delicate. It covers the idea of place, memory, family. It's a really beautiful book, and it was really interesting to talk to her and get sort of insight into someone that really this is their first book and why they went down the artist book kind of route. Lots of good insights, especially for people just getting into bookmaking, the sort of possibilities that are open to you when making books. Do you go down the zine route? Do you go down an artist book? Do you look for a publisher? These are all questions that Alyssa asked herself, and it's kind of interesting to see where she started and sort of landed with a project like this. She also worked with Tomaz, who is either in the video before or after this. And he's obviously a great book designer, and so it's really beautiful when we get to look at some of the dummies and stuff that she produced in the lead up to the final completion of the book. So I hope you enjoy this conversation. As always, we are supported by Rapid Eye Darkrooms. Rapid Eye is a pro lab based on Leonard Street in Shoreditch and part of Photobook Cafe. There you can get film processed, you can do workshops, you can do hand printing, digital C-type printing, buy film, scanner rental, all that sort of stuff. So it's a great place if you're just getting into photography or if you're already on your way. And of course, Photobook Cafe. If you don't know about us, we are a Photobook Cafe. We have a library of over 600 photo books that have been donated by photographers. We also have a gallery. We do book launches, workshop events, great food, great drink. Come and hang out. Come and have a nice time. Come to some events. If you're based in London, obviously, or if you're visiting, please come and say hello. So yeah, I will let us get into this. This is my conversation with Alyssa Warren. So, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you for
at
having
Photobook
me.
Cafe. We are here to talk about your book, The Lake.
Thank you.
Which you did a book launch with us last year.
Yeah, in November.
November time,
Mm-hmm.
which was great. We had an exhibition and everything that went alongside that. And so I just kind of wanted as a jumping off point for you just to give us a little bit of information behind the backstory of this project. How did it sort of come about, and what was your sort of thoughts and feelings going into this work?
Yeah. Okay. Well, so the idea for this project came about in about 2015, 16. My family has been going to the same lake cabin since the 1940s, so it's a multi-generational experience. And I was just thinking about how to convey what it feels like. I wanted to explore basically the relationship between people and nature.
Okay.
And how we internalize that, and also the importance of place, and like how we feel it in our bodies, how it sits in the psyche, basically, is what I wanted to convey with my photographs.
Right.
And I started out just taking, I love experimental photography. So I was working with a lot of pinhole photography. I was shooting on paper. And then as the project grew and then multiple members of my family became involved, it was really fun. I have a cousin who restores cameras. My grandfather used to be really into cameras. So then what happened was the family cameras got involved. Like people just started giving me old family cameras. I shot a lot of it with my dad's 1970 Nikkor mat.
Right.
I used my grandfather's Rolleiflex, then large, I started using large format. The whole thing's shot on film.
Right.
But it's kind of like, what I liked about it was that the process, like, one of the themes of the book is collective story making and collective memory making. And and the process reflected that. Like we were all kind of involved.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you also do writing as well,
I
right,
do,
don't you?
yes.
So
I'm a fiction writer.
everything, the photography, writing, and everything, it all combines into the sort of same thing. Do you see this particularly as a novel, as a story? Is it very much words and photography combining in a sense?
Yeah, yes and no. I mean, I'm actually writing a novel right now set in this place.
Right.
But the characters and the story are completely different because to create a novel, I have to create, a plot. And so I would say that this book has its own narrative and its own story. It does have a poem at the beginning of it that I wrote. But yeah, no, it's its own thing, which I think is part of the reason why I wanted it to be in the form of a book.
Right. And so what was when you were shooting the project, was the idea was to make a book? It wasn't sort of, did you just start shooting? Were you sort of like, I want to make a book, then sort of going into the project, and actually when you were shooting, thinking about how that would appear on the page? Or was this very just, I've got this project, I don't quite know where it's going yet, and then just see where it sort of...
Yeah, I would say the latter. So I was like, oh, let's just use these old cameras and these handmade pinhole cameras and just see what kind of shots I get.
Okay.
And then during the pandemic, I took an online workshop with Ilias Georgiadis.
Okay.
And then a year later, I met Tomáš Lajný.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like they very much got involved in my project and then influenced kind of how I was thinking about it. And then I started thinking of it, more as a book. And then, Tomáš being so into handmade books, he pushed me and to try making a book. And I am a maker in that I love hand printing in the darkroom. I do a lot of collage work on paper,
right,
but I had never actually made a book before. So this is my first artist book.
So have you ever been sort of a collaborator before, or have you been quite sort of solo in your...
quite solo. And so I found it really fun collaborating with both Ilias and Tomáš.
Did you find it difficult at all? Was it sort of, did you have something in your brain of how you wanted this to look, or were you really open to sort of Tomáš's concepts and ideas behind bookmaking?
Yeah, I think it was just such a fit. Also, the edit that Ilias and I were working on just clicked so well with Tomáš's vision for the physical, object, that it was a really easy collaboration.
It's really beautiful.
We fit real well, the three of us.
It's so delicate.
Thank you.
And I think we just did an interview with Max Ferguson as well, which he's done this book called Deadfall, which was going back to a place in France, which was kind of had this childhood memories and stuff. And again, it's a very sort of I wouldn't say it's a particularly like an artist book in this sort of sense, but it has a very sort of delicate flow. And I like your initial sort of thing of thinking about place. And were you, when you first started getting into sort of taking pictures, were you very much taking pictures of like people? Has your idea of the things that you like to take pictures of changed over the years?
That's a really good question. I mean, I have another photographic project that I'm working on right now, which is 100% studio based. Manipulations of light, and it's completely abstract. So yes, this was kind of a departure point for me. I had never done portrait photography before. I had never done landscape photography. So the place that I wanted to explore very much influenced the photographs.
Right.
And then also it being a family home, all of my extended family is there. In the end, I decided just to have children be in the book.
Okay.
But yeah, it's like my nieces and nephews. And
what was the reason for that?
I just, it's funny. I didn't even notice it really until we did like the final edit. And I thought, I suppose, being a mother, I'm mainly around, especially in the summer, the kids are out of school. They're with me all the time. They're really wonderful. They let me just follow them around with cameras. And they I fit my creative practice around them, and they give me space, I guess, to fill it in as well. So it's kind of a natural way of working.
Okay.
Means I can, basically work every day, right? Because I've got the kids right there.
Yeah.
But then I think in the edit, I have taken photographs of the other. But I don't know. I think part of it is about, I kind of want people who experience the book almost to project their own ideas of childhood and summer, perhaps. I didn't make that decision consciously when I was making the book, but I think now that it's finished and I go, oh, only the kids are in the book. I think that maybe I was aiming for that without being conscious of it, perhaps.
So delicate. I love the creaking that we sort of get, and for me, it's nice doing this kind of series because I never get to. I think we're all what's the word? We're all sort of partial to this. I get in the sense of like normally we pick up a book, we're in a bookshop, or we come to a book show, we pick up the book. Oh yeah, oh this is great. Oh yeah. You talk to people, you sort of flick through it. You never really get, apart from you take it home and hopefully everyone sort of sits and really sort of studies it. But I like it with this series, especially being able to talk with the artist and move through a book very slowly and hear things like that, the creaking of the paper sort of going across it. What was with the initial workshop? What was the reason for doing that? Were you stuck? Were you trying to? What was the reason for doing that?
Yeah, for the initial workshop. Well, basically, I love experimentation and taking pictures, and I had taken thousands of pictures.
Right.
And it was that thing of going, I'm completely overwhelmed. I don't know what I've shot. I don't know what to do with it. I think I also had some just preconceptions and worries about, photographing my kids and it being, I don't know. I think I just wanted to have someone to bounce all the, these ideas and photographs off. Yeah, absolutely. And so that was my initial thought in doing the workshop. It was with Michael Ackerman and Elias Georgiadis. And then I've always loved Tomas's work and saw he was having one. I jumped off a plane. I literally had the workshop with him the same day. It was amazing. And again, it's that experience, right, of seeing his books and the dummies that he's made in his studio. It just opened up this whole other, world. I just, like all the possibilities, just everything expanded.
So when you're getting into like an initial editing process for you, is it very much you scanning stuff in? Is everything laid out on the floor? Are you putting stuff on the walls? Are you putting it up in your home? Are you trying to live with the work? Like what's the way you're doing stuff?
Yeah, so almost every picture in the book I would have hand printed in the darkroom. Like the ones you're looking at right now, those were all done. This is hand applied photographic emulsion, so that's why you see the brush marks.
These were in the exhibition as well, right?
They were, I put a line of these there. And so I do a lot of hand printing first to try to figure out which printing process works the best with that image.
Right.
Then I scan them all and edit them. And then I guess with Elias, we were just going through folder after folder. We would have a meeting and I would show him 100, 150 pictures.
Okay.
And we would just pick 10, or pick 15 if I was lucky.
Yeah.
It was just like folder after folder after folder. And then we narrowed it down. So when I met Tomas, I kind of had a good edit. And right there is a little tiny inner booklet. I don't know if you saw that.
Oh, I missed it.
Yeah, so this is like a whole little booklet within the booklet that we did.
I love that. And
it's more of the crunchy paper. This paper, another friend of mine, Sayuri Ichida, she ordered all of that for me from Japan. So kind, shared paper that she has.
So this is all Japanese paper
throughout? It's all Japanese paper, yeah.
And what was your reason for choosing that? Was that Tomas's?
Yeah, it was the Tomas.
We speak about it actually in his talk, and it's and the reasoning kind of behind that. But yeah, it's it definitely fits for the work for sure. It really complements it.
Thank you. We really wanted it to be layered, right? Because
Yeah.
the book explores, memory and the nature of it. And so he planned every single one of these images, the paper very carefully, that you can just see the little boy through here. Now he's in the treehouse. He considered the front and the back of each type of paper as well.
Okay.
So it is very carefully thought out.
Wow, I love this.
Thank you. And this is an etching. I do a lot of photo etchings.
Okay.
And
what's the just for people that don't know, what's the process of photo etching?
Well, there's many ways you can make a photo etching. I do a lot of photopolymer etching because it's the process is quite straightforward and it gives you a very crisp, image.
Okay.
And I love, the texture and the way, I don't know, when you take a really grainy photograph and then push it that little bit further. It just becomes so rich.
And so when working with Tomas on this side of things, was it very much, did you just sort of, for the first kind of dummy, was it just, here you go, let's see what you come up with, or was it very much a collaboration in sort of seeing how the first format of the spreads would come up?
I mean, we tested a lot of papers. So in the beginning, I think we both had a similar vision that it should be layered and delicate and soft. As I said, I do a lot of hand printing. And so a lot of the printing I'd done in the darkroom, I had done on ivory colored etching paper. So if you were to come to my studio and see the pictures, they're quite,
I love this one.
Thank you so much. They're, so I wanted it to have some cream, some white. That was kind of my vision. But then it was, Tomas just went with, the edit and playing with the papers, and I just loved his vision for it. I mean, we just clicked, I just loved it. So it was a really smooth process.
This is really nice. I've even been sort of, I love the sort of, I don't know if I have an example anywhere here, but I really love sort of bringing collections of the same thing together and seeing that movement in shape. I was doing a project down in Cornwall and it was the sand. It was, when you're on the beach and the water's maybe just coming from the cliffs, and it's just making those little grooves in the sand and going towards the water, and then sort of just constantly photographing them and seeing that movement. I think this, to me, it really sort of reminds me of that sort of, and it's very just making more and more abstract shapes of the same kind of subject. I love seeing it as a grid like this. I think it works really,
Thank
really
you very
well.
much. This is kind of similar to that in that I'm photographing a place where a river is meeting a lake.
Okay.
And so the wind is blowing the water across the lake against the current of the river. So they're hitting on a sandbar. So it is kind of similar to, when the tide's coming in, as you're describing in Cornwall. And you just get incredibly different patterns. I mean, I just stood in the same place, like shooting, and there's not a single picture that's remotely the same.
Do you, was there any inspiration of other books going into this? Are you a photo book nerd? Are you a collector of photo books?
It's funny, this project has brought me into that world. So now, definitely since starting this, since meeting Ilias and Tomas, I definitely am building a collection. But no, I come to photography as a printmaker and an artist who works with paper, collage. And
so photo books were never sort of, you were never sort of picking up stuff that was never a guiding point. You went, oh, I've seen this and I really like that. This was very, you weren't sort of inspired by any sort of books from the past kind of thing.
Not until I kind of started,
delving into it.
I know it's kind of an odd way to come into the whole thing, but this is my first photographic project.
And what do you think is the importance of the artist book? What was the reason for making this? So what's the run of this?
Okay, so there's just 35 and there's 5 APs, and then I've brought, I've got a collection of dummies here.
And were they handmade by yourself or handmade by Tomas?
Tomas made this one.
Made this one?
Yeah.
Which is this one here?
Yeah, so this is the first one and our first I made a lot of cyanotypes, hence the blue cover. But then we decided to shift directions and do a soft cover, and the whole book's black and white. So yeah, there's just 35 copies, 5 APs, and the dummies. It's an opportunity to make a book exactly as you want with, zero restriction. I mean, obviously there are some restrictions in terms of the cost, but and learning how to make a book. I wanted to learn the entire process. And so in the end...
Yeah, it's very nice. It's very nicely done. So let's take a look at this first dummy. So this was produced by Thomas. Just zoom in a little bit there. And so what was the initial... What has changed then from going from this to
these different options? Let's see here. So the body of the book is almost the same.
Okay.
So we did make some tweaks, which you see throughout the different dummies, but it was mainly the cover and the box that changed. So in the beginning, we it's quite, as you felt the paper, it's quite delicate. So we were thinking, okay, it needs to have a hard cover. I had been making a lot of cyanotypes of this lake. So I wanted, because the book very much explores the role of place, I wanted to have a map in the project. So there's the map.
Oh, wow, that's beautiful.
Right, thank you. So the markings on that map came from me basically screwing up the cyanotype process. So these are all my mistakes.
Okay.
But we liked the mistakes. They look watery. It makes the map look a bit softer. We thought the map looked a bit hard, compared to the rest of the book, which is so soft and dreamy. So we went with that version, but then we decided to do it in black and white.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So
I love the map lines and then sort of these blowouts sort of.
Yeah. So these lines on the map all convey, I don't know if I'm saying the word right, it's a bathymetric map. It shows you the depths of the lake, basically.
Right, okay.
Yeah, so that's
in the
what
same
all
way
those
that you
lines
would get
are.
hills, like
exactly.
the lines of the hills going up. Yeah,
but this is inverted,
going
exactly.
down, yeah.
So this is a map of the different depths.
Okay, wow.
Yeah. And then this version didn't have the poem, as you can see. It's like we just worked it and pushing each iteration. They have different little quirks.
And the poem was written by you?
Yes, yes.
What was the reason for having the poem?
It was just interesting. It was, we took the book, showed it to some different, publishers and, people at Polycopies. I went with Tomas and Sayuri a couple of years ago, and it was great. We got some really, really helpful feedback. And I think I just wanted to prepare the viewer a little bit for entering into kind of a dreamy experience. It's nonlinear. It's almost like you're looking at a memory versus something that's more realistic. And so it was just to kind of bring a little bit of context, I think.
Okay.
So the beginning of the experience of going through the book.
So you went to Polycopies to not to sell it, but just as an initial sort of, let's show this to people that were coming to the table, or you had specific people in mind you wanted to show it to?
I mean, Tomas, they both had, books coming out that year. So it was quite, just natural. We went, we were just showing it, to just various people that they've worked with before. Okay. And that's a great process. It was just wonderful to see how other people were experiencing the work. So.
Yeah, it's interesting. I guess normally at a book fair, you would maybe take kind of the finished product to be like, here's a little taster, this is coming out. But really you were just like testing the water just to see if people were engaging.
Yeah, definitely. And even...
It's a really nice way of doing it, I think.
Yeah, and... it was really helpful. It was great. We came away. There were some things we decided to change. Some we decided, a lot that we decided to keep. And then the other thing that we changed was the cover.
Okay, yeah. So you've gone from this hardcover blue cloth bound, which is, I do like the weight to it. It is a nice... It's sturdy. You could hit someone with it.
That's a sturdy book, isn't it? Yeah.
But light in the same way. Perfect for hitting people. But yeah. So what was your experience then after when you, because you think you took the final one to Paris?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just gone.
Yes, you mean just this past time?
Yeah. So what was that like for you going into sort of book fair world and sort of engaging with the people?
It was fun. It was intimidating. You know, I didn't know what to expect. Andrea at Tippy Bookshop, so lovely, invited me to do a book signing. It went really well. It was really fun. And yeah, and I just also went through this organic process as well of just taking the book around and asking people if they'd see it. And I feel quite shy doing that. That's not normally, I'm not, but it was a great process. Like I spoke to Connor Donlin and then he said, go to the photographer's workshop and talk to Martin. And so I was just going in and like just showing the book to different people. And yeah, had a really good response to it.
Yeah, it's
organic.
Yeah, I love that as well, because I think like what we get kind of stuck with in, especially people getting into their first book, is the idea of you can have all these amazing ideas, put the thing down on paper, get something together, but it really is that life of where's this book going to go? Who's going to see it? How do I'm not, you never want to just send a PDF to people, or you really want to, and especially with a book like this where it's so tactile and you really need people to hold it. It's all about feeling, not just about the feeling that you get from seeing, but from holding. Yeah. And that's like really, really important. And I think I find that a lot of my books, I sometimes I struggle to sell stuff online because compared to like book fairs and stuff like that, because there isn't that idea of touch. And once you're in front of someone and they're holding it and you can really go through that explanation, that's when you see that sort of spark in people's eyes, and it's really nice to then, and especially when you've only done a run of 30, it feels very much like, wow, that's only 30 people own this, and that's like such a... What do you what's your feeling on things like very small editions, and particularly like costing? Like, how did you price something like this?
Well, this was really tricky because this was my first one. It's very tricky. It's very tricky to price this kind of thing. How do you, right? I mean, it took me months to make it. Like, all the paper came on a roll, so I had to cut all of the paper before it was printed. Basically, each page in the book is an archival inkjet print. They were like really high quality printing.
Yeah.
So it's a really good question, Matt, because I think going forward, I definitely will. I'll make more books. I think if I make something this labor intensive and that requires so much, maybe I'd make a smaller edition, but then if I make another, or I'm also thinking, I don't know, just figuring out ways to make the printing easier, right? Like, and then maybe I'd make a slightly larger edition, but price it a bit lower. I don't know. It's tricky. I don't actually have the answer to that. And I've spoken to so many different people about it, because that was another really big learning curve that I was on doing this book, is making it, right?
Yeah.
But then how do you price it? How do you distribute it?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah. So I actually, sorry, I'm giving you a really wishy-washy answer. No, I don't know the answer. My mind is all over the place. So I'm working on 3 other dummies. So,
have you got the bug now?
I definitely have the bug. Yeah, absolutely. It hasn't put me off making other books, but now that I've, knowing what I know now, I will be thinking about the materials and the pricing.
So what was
a little differently?
What is the pricing for this? Just so people, if they want it, is it sold out now?
There's I think Tippy Bookshop maybe has 1 or 2. Okay. I think the Photographer's Gallery has 1 or 2 more. So those are the last copies in the edition. It's £300 and it comes with a print.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah, it's a difficult line to tread, and I think it's something that I am internally. We have this in everything, like, what is our time worth? What the hours that you put into this thing. And obviously, for me, I obviously want everything. I'm very much from this sort of zine culture kind of style of things. So I want everything to be affordable. I
Yeah.
want people to be able to own stuff. But then, like, for instance, I'm just making a new book at the minute, which is like 170 pages, all hand bound. I'm only doing 50. But then to me, I just can't put it in my head for it to be more than like £50. But then I'm just so struggling in this idea of what am I then devaluing the work so much, you know?
Yeah.
Such a hard question.
No, I've been having all these conversations. I mean, I had people say price it between 180 and some say 500. And, you know, I mean, it's tricky. I don't know.
And so then sort of getting stuff into bookshops, was that quite easy for you? Do you think going forward you'll maybe work with a distributor or someone like that? Or do you very much like the sort of going in, talking to the bookshop owners, having that sort of conversation?
I did love doing that. Yeah, it was really, really fun. It was just with 4 different bookshops. I mean, it's not a large edition, so I think though, if I did a big print run, you know, like 500 or 1,000, I would definitely want to do that with a publishing company. Because
we did speak about what was the thinking about doing a trade edition.
Yeah, I very much would love to, you know, given that there's only 35 copies of this book, to make a trade edition.
And how do you see that working? Because obviously it's so tactile.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's.
How do you get a publisher on board with something like that?
Well, you know, it's interesting. I mean, you said, you know, I've been looking at. Look, you have to be willing to. It's going to have to change, obviously. Like when you are looking at different papers, a different printing process, it will evolve, right? For sure. You know, so I find that exciting, actually. I quite like that process of experimenting and proofing, and so I would really enjoy that. But yeah, it would be a different book. It would have a different feel.
But you want people, as many people to see it
Yeah.
as possible,
I mean, you know, there's, you know, to get it out there. Yeah, exactly. I have the same feeling as you. Like, you want to have something that's affordable and isn't just.
I was going through your website. You have the hostage.
Yeah, that's a working title for a Leporello book that I'm working on.
Okay.
Also shot those photographs. Those are all pinhole photographs shot
I'll do
on film.
a flash of this image of them.
Oh, okay. When you do, yeah, so people can see what we're talking about.
Which is it's kind of like a concertina kind of style, but completely joined, right? So it's full circle. It's not end to end.
Yeah, I mean, right now it's printed end to end or constructed end to end, and I've, you know, I like the idea of it being. I kind of want it to be more sculptural. It's about a plant. It's a really strange little project. It's about a plant that was in a cage, which I know sounds really weird. So I wanted, you know, the book to kind of look like a cage.
Yeah.
To kind of reflect the subject matter of it. And I'm working on another dummy as well, a color film project.
So with dummies and stuff now, is that something that are you getting very much into the bookmaking side of stuff? Are you hand binding everything? How did you learn to? Are you teaching yourself to bind? Have you done any workshops in binding? What's your sort of process with that?
I mean, so far Tomas taught me how to bind the binding he wanted for this design. So yeah, so that's really fun. I'm kind of going to enter into that.
These have a Japanese.
So really
bind on these ones.
Yeah. But yeah, now that I've made this book, I'm really keen to make a handmade version of these new projects I'm working on. And, you know, like, as I said, I'd love to find and work and collaborate with a publisher, you know, to do trade editions of these books. But I think I'd always love to make a special edition alongside whatever that would be, because I love this process so much. Yeah.
No, it's really so. What have you learnt
from this process, from making this body of book, and what would you do differently? Is there anything, it's kind of a tough question to ask, is there anything in the book that you would just, like, for the next one, this is going to change? You know, is there anything that you would just sort of like, this is perfect, this is great for this, but that I probably won't do that again, or that sort of thing? Is there anything like that that sort of come up?
Yes, there has. And what I probably wouldn't do is, so this book was made, as I said, all Japanese paper. Most of it came on a roll, so it had to be cut. For any future, edition of this size, I would just have to like find ways within the process to just save, time, because I underestimated how long it would take to cut all the paper. Like just that process alone took weeks and weeks and weeks.
Yeah.
So I love the paper, and I wouldn't change the paper in this I'm thrilled with the way it turned out, but I would definitely give just those basic things like more consideration next time. This first time around, I had no idea. I just jumped in the deep end.
Okay.
And I was committed, but like there were moments in the middle where I thought, my gosh, how can it be this hard to make 35 books?
Yeah.
I really underestimated the time it takes to do to have every process.
There's
in the
so
book
many
be
moving
hand
parts
done.
to this. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's little flaps in the book, little windows.
Stuff that's sort of tipped in as well.
Yeah, and the booklet in the middle.
Yeah.
The whole book has these French.
I'll just zoom out a bit.
Yeah. Great. The folds, as well.
So we have these gatefolds as well. French, what do you call it? Gatefold? French fold?
Yeah.
French fold?
Well, all of these, is that what you call? I mean,
French fold. Oh yeah. So when
all
you're
the pages, see how they're
you're
all
binding on the inside of the fold. So this is actually what would normally be on the inside where you would bind into.
Exactly, so but we've reversed it, and
so you can see it.
And it's lovely, but it takes a lot of time.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
so I would change that, but going forward, I'd just be exploring new materials, printing processes. I find all that really fun.
Yeah, beautiful. And so, kind of as a final question, what advice would you give to someone starting to get into self-publishing? What would be a key thing that you would say to someone?
I would say, anyone who knows me would laugh that I say this. I'm a slow worker. I would say don't rush.
That's good advice.
I really would. You've just shot this work, you're excited, you want to get it out. But I don't know. I do like the process of slowing down, editing. I mean, yeah. And the reason is it was nice. Like the other day, I was kind of packing up the final, just these dummies and things, and flipping through. And I thought the design sits well, the edit, I feel at peace with it. And I think that's something that you get when you just let it take its course slowly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
definitely. I think like a few people have said, just start.
And I'm like, slow down. I know, and all my friends would be like, "Oh God,
have
Alyssa."
to start, but take it.
Yeah,
but don't feel.
Don't. Yeah. Get going. Just start. Jump in. Absolutely. Start experimenting. Don't get fixated on your first ideas.
Yeah.
Let it go. Like, if there's anything not working, listen to that. There were things, I don't know, I was really, really, really wanted the book to have a blue cover, for example.
Right.
So it was a little hard for me to let that go.
Okay. That's
I'm like,
yeah.
Also, we were having trouble. I really wanted the book to have some ivory paper in it.
Okay. That
took a long time. But I wanted it to be white and ivory. And I'm glad I hung in there. I ended up sourcing this paper. It's Chinese, but it comes from or Japanese, but it comes from the States.
Right. Okay.
Or that's where I ordered it. And so that added a bit of a complication, but I'm glad I did that. But I'm glad I let the blue cover go, because in the end, I just feel like the final version was right. It all just clicked together.
Yeah, and it's really nice coming in the sort of slipcase as well. I think it really, it really complements it. Is this the final slipcase? This one?
It is. It's not constructed, with this part coming up. You know,
Right.
this is what happens. I would make it go, oh gosh, you know, I folded the flaps wrong.
Yeah.
And we decided
And
also
it goes a bit longer, so it
yeah, I
covers
just
over
wanted to. We thought let's protect the handmade binding.
Yeah.
But it had to have a slipcase. Once we went with this cover is printed on etching paper. It's very soft.
Right.
So if I were to take anything like, and it would press on it, the paper, this is, I don't know, 400-gram paper, GSM, it would, you could indent it. It's just so easy to mark it.
Yeah.
Whether with pressure or ink or whatever.
Right.
So it just had to have a case.
That's something to
but it also, I don't know, it just fits with the book. I think it had to have a delicate cover, actually.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, I think it really, really works. Cool. Well, thank you so much, Lisa. That was really, really interesting to talk about. There's still copies of this available, so there's still some at the photographer's
gallery has a couple, and Tippy Bookshop in Brussels has a few.
Amazing. And thank you so much, and I look forward to the next project.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Matt. Thanks a lot.